Welcome to New Independence Network. We're back again. Today we're going to talk about the NFL and the kneeling during the national anthem. Now this has been talked about to death, but there's still room to talk about it. Why? Because the NFL players are still kneeling, raising fists, locking arms, sitting, and showing overall disrespect toward our national anthem, toward our flag, toward our veterans, and toward the police. Here is the take. We're trying to give you a different take on this, but we're going to have to go over some topics that have been discussed already regarding the kneeling. Here's the story. For those of you who aren't entirely familiar with it, here's the story. Colin Kaepernick, last season, during President Obama's reign of terror in the United States, he decided to start kneeling during football games in response to the treatment of young black males by the police and the injustice being carried out. Ignoring, of course, the fact that this was more in response to the hands up, don't shoot lie that was perpetrated by the left and the media, because they love to use black people, black Americans in this country, as tools. They love to use them as, dare I say, media slaves. I'm going to be honest with you. This is how they use them. Because what the left see black Americans as is simply a way to get votes and gin up sympathy. They have a vast, extensive history of racism in the Democratic Party. Historically, they were the ones who were the creators of the KKK. They were the ones that formed the Dixiecrats in the South. The Democrats were the segregationists who tried to keep blacks separate from whites. The Democrats were the ones, Brown versus Board of Education, who prevented blacks or tried to prevent blacks from entering into white schools or schools in general, so they had their own schools. The Democrats were the ones who opposed en masse and filibustered the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965. The Democrats are the ones who elected a former Grand Kleagle of the KKK as a senator of West Virginia. That's Robert KKK Byrd. For 40 years. He was a senator for 40 years. And he was a Grand Kleagle of the KKK. They praised him and his leadership. How, if you are not a racist party, do you praise a former KKK leader? I mean, Strom Thurmond was the one segregationist who switched over from being a Democrat to a Republican. They all say, well, the segregationists, they switched over. They used to be Democrats, but they became Republicans, and that's what happened. That's not the truth. Only one switched over, and that was Strom Thurmond. All right, one main one switched over. That was Strom Thurmond, and when Strom Thurmond was retiring, I believe it was Trent Lott, during the retirement ceremony, made one comment, and he said something along. It was guys like 80-something years old. Strom Thurmond was, and he said something along the lines of, what a world it would have been if Strom Thurmond wasn't a leader or in charge, or something along those lines. He was just throwing the old man a bone. He wasn't sitting there dreaming wistfully of a segregated country. But the left, of course, had to jump all over that. One, to go after their defector, who became a Republican. And two, again, to try to cover their racist past. This is what the Democrats do. This is why Barack Obama was put on the ticket and forced to the forefront in 2008. Because if you recall, before Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton was the heir apparent to the Democrat power seat. She was going to be the president, first female president, going up against John McCain. But then they said, you know what? She's a little more susceptible, more vulnerable if she's going against John McCain. So let's put this Barack Obama up. And, why would you put a male against a female? Well, because the Democrats are also anti-woman. They use women the same way they use minorities. They use them all the time with their abortion talk, with their war on women. They parade them around as tools, and they don't care about women. They do nothing to help them. But let's go back to the point. They threw Barack Obama in the mix because they went, well, let's see, how do we get the win, guarantee the win? Well, we have to keep perpetuating the lie that we are for the black Americans and for the minorities. So if we put a black male politician up to be the presidential candidate, that would ensure that we can convince and steal the vote from the vast majority of the black populace. Now, let's step back a bit. If you recall, this non-racist party, the Democratic Party, when Lyndon B. Johnson was president, and he was passing the war on poverty, he was putting out the Great Society plan, which was basically dumping billions of dollars into inner cities in black communities, creating the welfare state, and making them reliant upon the government for handouts. This is what Johnson did. And his quote, as was quoted speaking to a couple senators who were on his plane, was regarding the Great Society plan: if we pass this, this will have the N-words voting Democrat for 200 years. End quote. That was the quote. This will have the N-words voting Democrat for 200 years. That's the Democratic Party right there for you. They are using black Americans as tools. They see them as votes. So what they did is they've given out handouts. Basically, the Democratic Party are your political drug dealers. When you are dealing with a drug dealer, what the drug dealers commonly do is they give out a dime bag, basically a real cheap hit of some kind of drug, most likely marijuana, because it's not incredibly expensive. They can give you a little hit, little taste, get you hooked, and then you're going to want to come back and get some more. So they give you a dime bag, and the dime bag kind of wets your palate a bit, and then you say, you know what, I got to get some more of this. This is pretty cool. I like the way it makes me feel. Then you come back, and the quote is, they get you on the comeback. So what that means is that you go back to the drug dealer and say, hey man, can I get some more of that stuff? Sure, but it's going to cost you $300 an ounce. And you say, oh, okay, well, I got to have it. And then you give them the money, and now you're really hooked. And marijuana is a gateway drug, which leads to bigger and bigger drugs, because over time that hit is not enough, that high is not enough, so you need more and more and more, and you move into bigger and stronger drugs. That is what the Democratic Party is with their handouts. Every social handout, every social program that the Democrats create for black Americans and the poor, predominantly black Americans, this is the reason why they do this, is a dime bag. They get them lured in and they say, look, we can give you welfare, and we can give you food stamps, and we can give you free education, and we can give you this, and we can give you cell phones. And then when the black Americans are lured in, then it comes election time, and the Democrats will say, well, if you really want to keep your high going with all these free handouts, you're going to have to vote for us, because the Republicans are going to take them away from you. And of course, A lot of black Americans say, well, I can't live without it now. I have welfare. I've set my budget to live on welfare. I've set my budget to live on food stamps. I enjoy my free cell phone. I enjoy my free internet that I get. I enjoy my public housing. And they vote Democrat to maintain the free handout. That's what Democrats do. They use black Americans completely as a tool. That's all they've ever done. And some black Americans have seen the light, and they've moved over to become Republicans or conservatives because they understand that if you work hard in this country, if you pull yourself up by your bootstraps, if you sacrifice, if you struggle, if you educate yourself, you do what you need to do, you can be successful. It's pretty simple. Pretty simple. If you do all those things the right way, you can be successful. And Democrats don't like that. And Democrat black Americans don't like that. What they will do, because they see this as an insult, this is like a rat, someone who's leaving the neighborhood, basically. They say you're an Uncle Tom, or Uncle Thomasina, as in the case of Condoleezza Rice. They, like Herman Cain, for example. Here is a successful businessman who started from nothing, educated himself, built a career, and has run companies, and was running for president. And he was treated horribly. He was scathed, called an Uncle Tom, called a turncoat, called a house Negro. That's what they called him. That's not in those words. That's what they called him. And it happens all the time. No matter who you are, if you are black and you are a conservative or a Republican, then you are the enemy. You are a turncoat. Because Democrats don't appreciate your race. They only appreciate your race as long as you're a Democrat. And then they will use that race because they see you as a slave to them. They are the modern slave masters. They really are. They have black Americans enslaved under social programs and lies. And let's fast forward that to how they're using them regarding the national anthem protests. Now we're tying it all together. When the hands up, don't shoot situation lie occurred, the Democrats jumped right on that and said, well, we got to use this. Because what did Rahm Emanuel say? Never let a good crisis go to waste. So they said, well, this is a crisis. The kid was killed. Michael Brown attacked a cop, robbed a store, roughed up the store owner, video camera, the security camera shows that. Then the cop said, stop. He ran toward the cop, attacked the cop. Numerous eyewitnesses corroborated and said, yes, he did. And the cop shot him. Well, they made up all these lies. They kept lying and saying he had his hands up and said, don't shoot. And he got on his knees and the cop shot him anyway, which was a complete and total lie. I don't care what anybody says, no matter how, you can argue all you want. I don't care because the facts of the case are there. So definitive are the facts of the case, and you want to argue it? There, let's go with this. Barack Obama got involved and made it a federal investigation, which it should never have been because it's a local law enforcement issue. But you had 3 different autopsies on Michael Brown. 3. One of them was a local autopsy. The second one was a federal autopsy. And the third one was another federal autopsy. I think it was the FBI and something else, DOJ. 3 different autopsies on Michael Brown. And all 3 autopsies under the Obama administration, all 3 autopsies, independently done, all corroborated that Michael Brown had attacked the cop and the cop was defending himself and shot him. Corroborated. 3 autopsies. Look it up yourself if you have any questions, because that's fact. That's what it is, whether you want to believe it or not. Well, the NFL players, how can we say this and not be controversial or insulting? Can't and won't. NFL players are not very bright. I mean, let's be real. They're just not. Most of them, they go to college based on what? They're all going to college based on a sport. Do you have engineering majors in school? Do you have people going for their doctorates? No, you have guys who major in like communications or TV or history or something really easy just so they can get their degree, if they even graduate from college at all. Because some of them declare early and get out of college before they even graduate. But they'll do just enough to get by. And let's be honest, the colleges, they have tutors for these kids, and sometimes they actually have people who take their tests for them. It's been proven before. Look at what just happened. I mean, here's an example. A little segue. Look at what just happened in the NCAA basketball. Rick Pitino, the institution at Louisville, was fired, along with like 5 other or 4 other coaches, plus athletic directors. Why? Because a federal investigation, the FBI had found out that the Adidas was paying kids to choose specific schools and giving them gear and giving them money so they would go to a school and pimp their brand out. And it was better because they had a deal worked out with the school for merchandising. Well, that's totally illegal, but that's what they do. So you have these players who can't make the grade, who are pushed through school under the No Child Left Behind Act. Many of them. Not all of them, but many of them. And if they're really incredibly talented athletes, it doesn't matter how bad the grades are. We're talking super stellar 5-star athletes. If the blue chippers, if their grades are not qualifying, the NCAA and the high schools will find a way to get them through the school, fudge whatever they need to fudge, and get them into college and get them paid for. Whether it be through boosters, who are quote-unquote friends of the program, who will paper these kids with a ton of money, buy them clothes, buy them cars, buy houses for their family, and get them to play football, basketball, whatever sport, in college. Predominantly football and basketball, because those are the bigger, more lucrative sports in the NCAA. So, I mean, have you ever seen the movie Blue Chips with Nick Nolte, Shaquille O'Neal, Anthony Hardaway? Watch the movie Blue Chips. It's not a great film, but it's not a bad film, and it really shows you what the friends of the program is like, and the dirty deeds that are pulled behind the scenes in the NCAA. Even though they don't use the actual NCAA, it's a made-up team, it's pretty close to being accurate. It really is. Minus the part where the coach quits at the end, and spoiler alert, minus the point where the coach quits at the end because he can't deal with the underhanded tactics they have to use to win. That's not as true. Most likely they would have gotten fired first before they quit, because these coaches just want to win and they want to make their millions of dollars, and they do not care about the ethics and values of it. Not all of them, but there are quite a few. There are a lot more in the big programs that do it than don't. Testament to the fact that the FBI just discovered the tip of the iceberg, and there's going to be more as long as the NCAA doesn't try to find a way to sweep it under the rug. So you have players who are not very bright, not very educated. I think there was a study that said that most of them have an 8th grade reading level, something along those lines, and it doesn't surprise me. You have a lot of athletes who come from bad areas, bad schools, and 75% of this is just a fact, 75% of the NFL are African Americans. That's a fact. 75% of them are. So now you have athletes who, many of whom, not all of them, but many of whom are not well educated, and they're in the NCAA, and they are playing football. They go to the NFL, having not been fully educated, many of whom who have not graduated at all from college, and they are playing the game, and they don't know what they're talking about when it comes to social events and politics. So then you have a dope like Colin Kaepernick. Now, Colin Kaepernick, believe it or not, was abandoned by his black family, raised by a white family. So he lived white privilege because he was raised by a white family. But for some reason, the media ignores that. However, Colin Kaepernick said, oh, hey, you know what? I'm very upset about the shooting of Michael Brown. I'm believing all the propaganda because, well, first off, Colin Kaepernick is a Marxist. He actually, go Google Colin Kaepernick and Cuba, or in Castro. Google Colin Kaepernick and Castro and show me what you find. He lavishes praise on Castro. He's a Marxist. He's a communist. This is what he wants. Okay, he's a socialist. So, Colin Kaepernick hates this country anyway for some strange reason, but he does. And the Michael Brown thing happens. And he says, well, this is unjust, and I'm going to kneel. I'm going to kneel. And his protest, he came out and even said it in 2016, his protest was against, it's supposed to be against the injustice by the cops against the black man, right? Black people in general. But he said that it was against the flag and this country because the country is unjust. So he took a protest which he thought was which should have been against just the cops alone, but he made it against the country as a whole. Well, I'm sorry, but there's no such thing as a federal police force. There's local, state and local police, but there's no federal police force. But he's taking his grievance out on the country. So it's really, his issue is not with the police. He's using that as an excuse. His problem is with the country. And he's protesting. He protested against the country by kneeling during our national anthem while we're honoring the flag and those who fell defending that flag and our freedoms. Simple. Now, while we're on the topic of the flag, when we say defending the flag, people say, oh, listen to me. Here's what the flag's all about. The flag has 50 stars in the field of blue. The 50 stars represent the 50 states. Okay? They have changed over years as we've gotten more states. The 13 stripes represent the 13 original colonies of this country. The red stripes represent the blood of the fallen who have died defending the flag and the freedoms that this country provides. So if you're going to kneel against the flag, you're going to kneel against the veterans. Very simple. There's no other way to slice it. Very simple. Clear cut. That's what the flag is about. So, he says we're going to kneel against the flag. Now, more moron football players decide to join in his protest because they don't know a damn thing except for how much bling they have on and whether or not they can go to Vegas and hang out and party in the off season or go on a yacht. They don't know anything. They just don't. They're really dim. But they do it anyway. These dopes last year knelt with him. The fans got very upset, and NFL ratings began to drop. ESPN's ratings were going in the toilet because ESPN has become a political tool. They've turned more. They're like the CNN of sports now, which is really ridiculous. I remember when ESPN used to be fun. Remember that? When you used to tune in to ESPN just to hear the sports, hear the updates, see the highlights. It was really cool. Back in the 90s, I was stationed overseas in the 90s, and I had a chance to watch ESPN. That was my only really avenue toward my local sports news at all. And this was before the internet became a big thing, and we didn't have smartphones, and I would watch ESPN, and I really enjoyed it. But over the years, liberalism has permeated ESPN and has destroyed the brand. They've lost millions of subscribers. People can say, oh, that's cord cutting. A lot of millennials are cutting the cord. They're, they're getting rid of cable. They're getting rid of satellite, and they're moving to streaming where they can pick a la carte services. And what does that mean? That means that, for example, you can sign up to DirecTV Now. AT&T's DirecTV Now. And that has about 60 or 70 channels that are like $35 a month. You can have all those channels, and they stream to your devices. You can watch them on your Apple TV, you can watch them on your laptop, watch them on your phone, watch them on your iPad. And you can, it's not every channel. You don't need thousands of them. You're not going to get all the Hispanic channels. You're not going to get Black Entertainment Television if you don't want it. And you can pick and choose. You can choose to sign up to HBO for additional $5 a month. You can choose to get Hulu and watch specific channels on there for $8.99 a month. There are several different things, and you can cancel at any time. So if you're like, I don't feel like having HBO anymore, you cancel. It doesn't matter, and you're still getting what you want to get. You're not beholden to the cable companies and their exorbitant fees. What the cable companies do is they pay each network a certain amount of money per month as a licensing fee to have their channel on the cable service. And the most expensive of all of those is ESPN, which has it makes $7 per month per subscription. $7. That's a lot of money. Well, when the kids are cutting the cable and getting rid of their cable and their satellite, then ESPN's losing big bucks. I mean, you think about this. If you have 10,000 subscribers and you're making $7 a month, that's $70,000 every month for 12 months. That's $840,000. That's about right. Yeah, $840,000 in 1 year, almost $1 million. Now that's just for 10,000 subscribers. We're talking nationwide. 1 million subscribers at $7 a month is $7 million a month. 1 month times 12, 8.4 million or $8.4 billion. $7 million, yeah, $8.4 billion. There's no place for politics in sports. The closest we've come to politics in sports, if you want to call it that, was the 1972 terrorist attack in the Munich Olympics, where the Israelis were killed by the terrorists. That's the closest we've come to politics in sports. It should not be a very common issue. Maybe the fist raising in the Olympics during the civil rights era of the black athletes during the Olympics. But it was brief. It was just touched on. It should not be in sports at all. Politics is divisive. It's the way it is. Sports is a time to unify. You can have, no matter what your political differences are, you can be a Cowboys fan. You can be a Boston Red Sox fan. You can all come together for a common cause, rooting on your team, put aside your petty political differences, and actually enjoy the sport as a brotherhood and as a team and as fans. But once you inject politics into the mix, the unity is lost and the division takes over. That's a major issue. And that's happens to ESPN already, and now it's happening to the NFL. Well, how? Well, people say, well, Donald Trump. Let's look at this now. Now we're going from a different perspective. First off, Donald Trump is proud of this country. He's proud of this country. He loves America like most of us do. Democrats don't, but the Republicans, conservatives, especially conservatives, love this country. Donald Trump loves this country, and he does not like to see the country, the flag, national anthem, veterans spit upon by the NFL players in their absolute ignorance. So, as the president, this actually makes sense, because if you look at it from an economic point of view, the NFL is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and it's a nationwide industry. Now, the NFL does not just affect the team itself. The economics of the team are not what are affected. If the NFL goes on strike, and it's a private business, but if the NFL goes on strike and the players strike and don't play, not only are the teams affected, but The stadium workers are affected. Your maintenance crews are affected. Your concessionaires are affected. Your merchandise people are affected. Cab drivers taking people to the airport are affected. Police who are working overtime are affected. Security guards are affected. Scalpers outside who are selling tickets are affected. Businesses around the stadium where people go to eat before and or after the game are affected. Hotels where people stay when they come into town are affected. Car rental is affected. Airline travel is affected because people don't buy tickets to come into town anymore, and you lose toll revenue for people going across bridges to the stadiums and parking revenue. It is an endless cascade of damage done by the NFL if they strike. Well, imagine now they're injecting politics in. And you have fans who are very upset. And the fans say, well, I don't like this. I'm insulted by the fact that they're insulting my country. I, as a veteran, am incredibly insulted by this. Incredibly. I'm also a member of a Gold Star family. My uncle died after World War II as a result of the wounds he suffered in World War II. I have another uncle who served in Iwo Jima, fought in Iwo Jima when he was young. I have family that are all over the military landscape. Everyone in my family has been in the military. All men, at least. And I find it very offensive. Well, there's a lot of people that are like me. And they don't want to go to the NFL games. So guess what that means? They're going to boycott these games. They're not going to go. That hurts the NFL, but it hurts the businesses who make money off of the NFL because of the NFL. So I don't think this is why he did it, but in some way it makes sense if he did. But it also makes sense if you consider it. By Donald Trump saying don't kneel, yes, respect the country first and foremost, but also as a leader, the NFL will negatively affect the businesses that I mentioned that rely on the NFL to increase their revenue. And that's a fact. But these players don't care because they're making their millions of dollars. And the billionaire owners don't care because they're making their billions. But they could care less what happens to everybody else who's working 40 to 60 to 80 hours a week in hopes of getting enough money just to scrounge it up to live. And many of these fans work very hard, earn their money, and work 2 or 3 jobs sometimes to be able to afford tickets at exorbitant prices to go to these games. NFL players and owners don't care. They just don't. And they should, because the fans are their lifeblood. The fans buy the tickets. Now, how do the economics of the NFL work? Well, it's pretty simple. NFL fans buy tickets. Tickets help pay salaries. They pay for the upkeep of the stadiums. They pay for salaries for workers in the stadiums and for the players. They also buy merchandise, which also goes into that. There's revenue sharing in the NFL where a team earns X and all the teams get a share of that. And they split the costs between all of the teams. So you can't have one team who's making tons more than another team because they want some parity. So it's kind of a balanced playing field. It's not like you have the New York Yankees in baseball that make all the money, and then you have the Oakland A's who make no money. There's a revenue sharing plan in place. TV revenue comes from ratings. If the fans are watching, a certain number of fans are watching the games, then that provides the network with numbers. So they can go to advertisers and say, hey, we have 23 or 30 million people watching this game, and we can charge you X because it would be good for you for exposure to buy airtime during this game. And the advertisers go, that's a great idea. That's great exposure. I will spend the $4.5 million in the Super Bowl for a 30-second spot. I'll pay for this ridiculous airtime because it's better for my company. And I get to get my product in front of a lot of people. And that TV money, we're talking, the networks, of course, can command that. And then they go to the NFL and say, hey, look, we want to show your games. And because we're going to make so much money on advertising, we're going to pay you some odd billions of dollars every year to air your games. And NFL says, okay, they enter the contracts, and there you go. That's how it works. Well, guess what? If fans stop watching the games, then you're not going to be able to command the advertising dollars, and then the networks will not be able to pay the NFL to air those games, and then you have a problem. Games won't be on TV. NFL starts losing more revenue because a large chunk of their revenue comes from TV money. Huge chunk of it. Well, if we stop going and we stop watching, they lose money. That is bad business. And in addition to that, then you have all the other small businesses around there who are damaged because of the NFL and their petulant childishness. So, Donald Trump, as the president, has a vested interest in the overall economic stability of this country. I don't think that's why he said what he said. I firmly believe what he said was based on a love of country and a pride in this country, as well it should be. But underlying subtext of it is there is a larger problem, and that is the damage that can be done to this country and its economy if people stop going to NFL games. It's not that point yet, but recently NFL has reported lost, 18% of ticket sales? 18% drop in ticket sales? That's a lot of money. Ratings are down 11%. That's a pretty large chunk. 11%. I mean, if you have 30 million people watching a football game, or let's say 10 million watching a football game, 30 million is a lot. If you have 10 million people watching a football game and you're losing 11% of that, well, 10% of 10 million is a million. That's a million people. So 1.1 million people, 1,100,000 people have stopped watching a football game, for example. That's pretty bad. And it's going to get only worse. So what you had is dimwit Kaepernick, who knelt. And he was it was a joke. And then he was offered a $12 million contract by the 49ers, which he turned down. He left to try the market on his own, and no coaches wanted to touch him because he's poison. We don't want that. We saw what happened to the 49ers. We don't want him anywhere near us, and they've ignored him. Well, of course, now you have a lot of predominantly black athletes who say, it's not fair. Colin Kaepernick is being discriminated against because of his color. No, it's because, first off, he's not a top-tier quarterback anymore. He's a third stringer, a glorified third stringer now. That's what he is. He's lost his edge. It's done. Number one. Number two, he's a liability. When you're running a business and you have somebody who is a cancer to your business because they can't keep their mouth shut, or they misbehave too often, or they don't know how to act in public, they're a cancer. Look what happened to Terrell Owens. Terrell Owens is leaps and bounds a better athlete than Colin Kaepernick ever wishes to be. Terrell Owens was with the San Francisco 49ers and won a Super Bowl. He went to the Philadelphia Eagles and almost helped them win a Super Bowl. He was instrumental in their 2004 season and the 05 Super Bowl. He was huge. It was 03, 04. And then he went to the Dallas Cowboys after he left the Philadelphia Eagles. And he was instrumental there. But everywhere he went, he was trouble. So much trouble was he, so disruptive was he, that he ended up getting relegated to the Siberia of the NFL, and it was the Buffalo Bills. No one wants to play in Buffalo because it's cold, because it's miserable, and they always lose. But he was relegated to Buffalo. And there he was. And he got his dose of humility. The Lord humbles the exalted and exalts the humble. And he was in Buffalo, and he just kind of withered away into obscurity, into the point where he's no longer playing football. I have mad respect for Terrell Owens and his talent, but his attitude was terrible. Colin Kaepernick's the same way. If Terrell Owens is going to get relegated somewhere else into obscurity because of his misbehavior, you don't think that the same thing will happen to Colin Kaepernick? Of course it will, because he's an idiot. And no coach, no employer wants to have an idiot in his company. So, what next? Well, of course, your black athletes, some of them are Colin Kaepernick's being treated badly because of his race. You can't say that because 75% of the NFL is black. If he was the only black quarterback, if they were the minority in the NFL, then you could say, well, maybe it's racism. Possibly. But it's too easy of an excuse. And when you have 75% of the NFL black, you can't use the racism argument. You cannot. Of course, then they'll go with, oh, he has to know his place. They're trying to keep the black man in his place. No, there's a lot of athletes who say a lot of things. But the fact of the matter is, it's a business. But these dopes in the NFL who never run a business don't have a clue what it takes to run a business. Their business is them playing with a ball. That's their business. And they're just employees. That's all they are. They don't run a business. They don't know what it takes. So they don't understand where the NFL owners are coming from. That's just how it is. So now let's go forward even further from that. This is a very detailed history of this. It gets a little foggy at this point, but then you have players who they've decided to start. Well, Donald Trump comes out and makes his comment about the players, calls them sons of bitches. In a rally in Alabama, he was talking to his audience, talking at their level, ginning up that support, getting them fired up, which is what he does, which is what got him elected, a big part of what got him elected. And he says, I would tell those sons of bitches to get up off their knee, to get out, you're fired. Well, yeah, I wouldn't use those words myself, but at the same time, he's using it not literally. He's just using it figuratively. But the fact of the matter is, yeah, he's upset with them, and he's saying, look, get up off your knee or you're fired. That's what you would tell them, and I kind of agree. People say, that's not presidential. Haven't you learned anything about Trump yet? Trump is a totally different type of president. He is not a career politician. He was not groomed to be a politician. He is a regular guy who's made a lot of money. He's a dude. That's what he is. He's not some pompous elitist like Barack Obama, who a false Ivy Leaguer who was pushed through the system. He is not some elitist Jeb Bush industrialist heir to his father's oil empire, whatever the hell it was. The Bushes are all establishment. They're all groomed like the Kennedys. Whose turn is it next? They feel they're the rightful heirs. I don't have a big fondness for the Bush family because I believe they're a bunch of rhinos in many ways, and they're establishmentarians, and they don't care. He's not a person who's been in politics for 40 years like John McCain, who's losing his frigging mind. Brain cancer or not, he's losing his mind. He is a regular guy who has a lot of money. He's a New Yorker. That's Donald Trump. He's an outsider. He's completely from outside the circle. I talked about that in the earlier update. So Donald Trump said what he said, because that's Donald Trump. Well, these players, they're little babies. They're used to being coddled, used to having themselves stroked all day by everybody. Oh, Aaron Rodgers, you're so great. Oh, you're so great, Tom Brady. We love you so much. And then they become butthurt, to use the parlance, when people do not kiss their butts. Much like celebrities. If you do not stroke a celebrity, they get their feelings hurt. If you go after another celebrity or any celebrities, they will lose their ever-loving minds because, God forbid, you don't treat me like I walk on water. That's NFL players for you. They're virtually the same thing as celebrities. They're just tougher celebrities. And they're talented athletes. I'm not taking anything away from their talent. Like Robert De Niro is a talented actor. You can't deny that. Meryl Streep is a very talented actress. You cannot deny that. But she's also an idiot. He's also a moron. Stick with what you know. If you're a politician, stay a politician. If you're an actor, stay an actor. Stay out of politics. Politicians cannot be actors, and actors cannot be politicians. Some have crossed over, and we saw how successful that was with Arnold Schwarzenegger. He was a disgrace as a governor of California. And I love Arnold. But he was terrible. And he became a rhino. He fell right in line with the Kennedys. Disgraceful. But NFL players, be a ball player. Just play the game and shut up. Just shut up about politics. You don't know anything about that. If you want to work charity and do some charitable things, then do it. That's fine. You don't have to know a ton about charity to give to charity. But don't talk politics when you don't know politics, because you're out of your league. Even if you majored in political science, whoopee. You've been playing football for how many years? You're not in the game. You don't understand the game. Oh, Donald Trump wasn't a politician. No, he wasn't, and that's why he won. It was a little different, though, because he was a business owner. He knows how to run a company, and running a country is very similar to running a company. There's a lot of infrastructure involved. There's a lot of personnel involved. There's budgeting involved. There are contracts involved. There are many things involved with running a country and a company that are similar, just on a much, much larger scale, with a lot of other scumbags that are under your power who can't just do what you tell them to do, or they'll be fired. So you have a lot of stroking and butt kissing to do as well to smooth over those people who get their feelings hurt. NFL players, they couldn't do that. They have no idea how to run a company, a country, or anything of that sort. So they're basically not politicians, but they're trying to be. Wrong answer. So here we go. Trump makes his comment. The NFL players get butthurt and they go, we have to all kneel now. I'll show you. Like a little child, like little children. I'll show you. You said we all have to stand up, or we're all going to just sit down now. We're going to throw a tantrum. And then they lose the message. We're all kneeling because of equality, because of unfairness. We want to... No, that's not the whole... That's not why. The whole purpose Colin Kaepernick knelt... The whole purpose he knelt was against this country and against the flag. He said it himself in 2016. So these NFL players are so dumb. They don't comprehend why they're doing what they're doing. They're just doing it because it's a cool thing to do. Because they're upset. Some of them said they're doing it because they're against Trump. That's not what you're doing this for. Then they get the feedback, the negative feedback, and they get hit. You had the fools to go out to England a couple weeks ago. They kneel during our national anthem on foreign soil. They have no idea. And then they stand during God Save the Queen. What's funny is, again, most of them are black athletes, and the black athletes don't understand that the British were the ones that basically started the slavery that they had that their quote-unquote ancestors had to suffer in the United States. But they're going to stand for God Save the Queen. Well, they do that. And then they kneel during our national anthem here in the United States. And they get a lot of negative feedback. And people lose their minds. Lose their minds. So what next? Well, people stopped watching. People protested, burned their gear, burned their season tickets. You saw that. Watch the videos on it. It's crazy. A person had thousands of dollars of season tickets and he burned them. Part of me went, oh my God, it hurts so much to see that. But the other part of me said, right on, right on. And the NFL players said, hold on a second. Oh, well, we're not protesting against the flag. We're protesting against injustice. If you're not protesting against the flag, then why are you kneeling during the honoring of the flag? Stop and think about that, dimwits. If you're not I'll say it again, nice and slow, so you understand. If you're not protesting against the flag, then why are you kneeling during the honoring of the flag? Pretty simple. Yes, you are protesting against the flag. That's what it is. If you really want to protest against injustice, then hold a town hall. Then have a rally after the game on your time, on your dime. You are there to perform. Your job is an entertainer. An athlete is an entertainer without a script. And your job is to improv and perform. You have plays, which is kind of a script. So, yeah, they kind of have a script. But you have to still act with improvisation and play your game on the field for the people who paid money for tickets to come see you, who are spending their time to watch you on TV when they could be doing something else. That's what you do. That's your job. You're an entertainer. That's it. And when you're kneeling before these people, before your game, and disrespecting this country, you're also kneeling on their dime and their time. It's very simple. It's like, these NFL players love to go to Walt Disney World or go to Vegas in the off season, right? Spend their millions of dollars doing crap. So, gambling and strippers. Well, what if they went to Disney World and before they went in there with their kids, before they went on a ride, all of the characters would have to kneel or protest before they went on the ride and it held them up from going on the ride and stopped everything? They'd be pissed. What if they went to Vegas and before they went in there to gamble, every single dealer and every single waitress would kneel and protest before them every single time they try to play a card or every single time before they played a hand? They get pissed. Or if they went to a strip club and all the strippers decided to protest before giving them the lap dance, they get pissed. Guess what, guys? You are paid to perform. That's all you're paid to do. You're not paid to pontificate. You're not paid to proselytize. Your job is to play football. That's all. Don't make it like you're more than you are, because you're not. You didn't go to school to learn anything. You went to play football. You may have learned something. Some of you may. Not all of you, but the vast majority of you are dopes. It's a fact. So don't act smarter than you are, because you're not. So, they say, I'm not against the flag, but you're kneeling during the flag. Look, if you're against the cops, which was Kaepernick's real reason, then go protest the cops. Go protest in front of City Hall. Go protest in front of the courthouse. Go protest in front of the police headquarters. Go protest in front of cops. If that's what you're all about. Oh, but wait, you'd rather kneel in the stadium, in your stadium safe zone, protected by those cops whom you so despise. How hypocritical is that? You hate those cops, but you're kneeling in the stadium and they're protecting you. How about that? Oh, but you're kneeling against the national anthem, which means you're against the veterans, but you have your freedoms because of the veterans. But see, the problem is, these NFL players are children. I mean, I think what, Tom Brady's 41 years old, I think. He's 41. So think about this. If he's 41 years old, he's been in the league for, I don't know, 20 years maybe? 16 years, something along those lines. He's a kid in the grand scheme of things. He hasn't been around long enough. And he's lived in a country of safety. The most dangerous circumstance he's been in was 9/11. And that was quite a ways away from him. He was several states removed from that. And these other players who are 26, 24, 28 years old, 22. When 9/11 happened, what was that? 16 years ago? 16 years ago 9/11 happened. A 22-year-old athlete was 6. Tom Brady was, what, 25? He was a pup. So they don't understand anything really dangerous in life. Oh, what about those who grew up in the inner cities? I'm talking something that's really going to damage their freedom. Something that puts the nation at risk on the grand scale. They don't comprehend that. And they have those freedoms from youth because of those who fought and died before them. And they grew up in neighborhoods that were relatively safe, and sometimes very safe, because of the police who kept those neighborhoods safe. You didn't live in an inner city and survive out of luck. There are police who put their lives on the line every single day. Imagine, NFL babies, if you left your house to go to work every day, thinking and hoping that you will make it home, and thinking you may not survive at the end of the day, and that your wife and your children are at home going, my God, I hope my father makes it back alive today. Think about that. What would that be like? You don't have that. You leave your house to go get a team meal, stay in a nice hotel, get on a plane, wear your nice little suit, do a couple media things, practice a bit, play a game, go back, get your team meal after that, go hang out, come home. That's what you get to do. You don't put your life on the line. Well, you could get killed during a game. No. How many fatalities have been in the NFL in its history during a game? I don't even know. Not many at all. So few I can't even recall one. So your lives aren't on the line, but the police are. Soldiers are every single day. And the soldiers is not a daily thing. They're deployed for a year, fighting to keep this country safe. But you don't care because you don't understand. What, Villanueva from the Steelers, even he, Villanueva, he came out and he put his hand on his heart and stood at the top of the tunnel last week for the national anthem. And everyone was very proud of him. Very proud of him. He was a West Pointer, served. I think he was a Ranger, I believe. And he honored the country, as well he should. And then what happened? Then they got to him. I regret doing that. I'm really sorry. I let my team down. Who gives a shit? Sorry. Who cares if you let your team down? Who cares? You're doing this for your country. That's the right thing to do. That's the mature thing to do. But the NFL players don't comprehend that. All they comprehend is, what does this do for me? How does this make me look? Well, it makes you look like children. Stop and think about that. But they're still doing it. This past week, just Sunday, they all did it. They did it in London again. The Dolphins did the exact same thing. Knelt during the national anthem, stood during God Save the Queen. The Ravens did the same thing. 70,000 people. Ray Lewis knelt on 2 knees with his team in unity. 70,000 Ravens fans have signed a petition to have his statue in front of the stadium removed. 70,000 fans. That's no small feat. And really, to have a statue in front of that stadium for a NFL player who killed a guy, oh, he wasn't found guilty of that. He killed the guy. He was let go because he was Ray Lewis. Stop. Please. We all know the truth. But the fact of the matter is that the fans don't like it. The Green Bay Packers say, we're not going to kneel this time, but we're all going to link arms. Well, I don't agree with that either. I don't care what the Trumps say on that one. I think Eric Trump came out and said, I don't mind if they link arms. And Donald Trump said, well, at least they were standing. When you honor the national anthem, you put your hand on your heart and you honor the flag the right way when you hear the national anthem. That's what you're supposed to do, out of respect. If you're Barack Obama, you cross your hands in front of yourself, because Barack Obama is an anti-American socialist and a scumbag and a Muslim sympathizer, and he hates his country. And interestingly enough, it all starts, all these problems with the police. Why did they happen under Obama? In 2016, he was president for 8 years. Why were there any problems? The country should have been utopia, Colin Kaepernick. The country should have been flawless. We should have been rainbows and sunshine and moonbeams and butterflies. But no, there was still injustice in this country. How is that possible? With Barack Obama as president for 8 years. It should have been paradise. Especially as the first black president. I mean, why aren't black neighborhoods flawless now? Why aren't the inner cities teeming with prosperity now? Why is the murder rate in Chicago, why did it increase exponentially when Barack Obama was president? Shockingly. And back to our original point. Because Barack Obama was a tool. A black politician, Democrat, used by the Democrats to get the black vote. He had no desire, no designs to help the black community at all. Barack Obama was raised by a white mother. He lived a privileged life in Hawaii. He didn't have to struggle like real people, and he had everything handed to him. He was groomed as a politician. He doesn't care. As you would say, he's not quote-unquote down with the struggle because he doesn't understand the struggle. He hates this country, and it doesn't matter what happens. And honestly, while he says he's black, he hates being black. Because if he liked being black, he would have helped black Americans. Let's be honest. He's an elitist. He uses his race as a tool, as a gimmick, to help further his career. Let's be real about this. And you NFL players are falling for the trap. Now your sport has been permeated by, tarnished, tainted by the Democrats. They are looking at you as a tool. They're using your race and your lack of education, taking advantage of you, and letting you do the work, letting you do the dirty work to damage the sport that they hate so much, try to damage Trump, and damage this country. And it's going to backfire on you guys. It's already doing it. If you want to destroy this brand, keep it up. Keep it up. Okay. Well, that's our audio cast for today. This is the New Independence Network. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll be back. We still have to talk about the commie mayor of San Juan, Puerto Rico. That'll be coming up soon. Until then, thank you very much for listening. Have yourself a great day.